So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to start this meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So before we get started tonight, and before I officially open the meeting, I want to tell you the results of yesterday's vote. There were, 691 voters that voted, and for Select Board, it was Jason Ninos, 325, Costa Alexandropoulos, 151, Philip Lemieux, 392, and Neil McIver, 306, and there were 14 write-ins, and I declare Philip and Jason duly elected. For moderator, 576 for Lad Rain and 7 write-ins. For town clerk, Amy Lee, 622 with 1 write-in. For tax collector, Linda Buffington, 624 with 1 write-in. For a supervisor checklist, Mary Halloran, 589 with 11 write-ins. For trustee of trust funds, Kevin Lincoln, 551 with 10 write-ins. Trustees of trust, Mark Halloran, 590 with 11 write-ins. Library trustee, 575 for Amy Sullivan with 11 write-ins. Cemetery trustee, Jenny Tebow, 602 with 10 write-ins. School board member, Jessica Whitson Shaw, 601 with 2 write-ins. Excuse me. And the petition articles. Article 1 passes 400 to 253.
Point of order.
Yes.
Can I make a comment on this?
No, the meeting's not open. I'm just announcing the results of the election. That's all I'm doing right now. That wasn't Article 1, that was the petition article first. Zoning Article 1 was 426 yes, 232 no. For Article 2 was 35 yes and 218 no. Zoning Article 3, 484 to 161 no. Article 4, 442 to 194 no. And the last article was 479 to 172, and all of them pass. For Commissioner of the Water and Sewer District, Stephanie Holter. For the Water and Sewer District, there were 404 votes cast, and Stephanie Holter had 375 with 1 write-in. School board member for the regional school district, Carolyn Verlin got 488. There were 5 other write-ins. That was for the town of Campton. For Holderness, it was Patricia O'Neill, 468 with 4 write-ins. That was for Holderness. For Plymouth, it was Mary Beth Bentwood, 414. Michael Watto, 207, and that was for the town of Plymouth. School board for Thornton, 463. And with 5 write-ins for Paul Cody, and for Wentworth, Bernice Sullivan, 453 votes and 4 write-ins. And Article 1 on the school district ballot was to negotiate and execute tuition contracts, was 548 in favor and 89 opposed. Article 2, support of staff for collective bargaining, was 475 yes with 187 no. Article 3, the installation of lights on the athletic field, was Article 1, it was yes, 158, no was 493. And for the operating budget was 405 yes with 238 no. And the results of those will be found after all of the schools get together and share the information. I have a complete list of all of the write-ins that I'm not going to bother to read because it's rather extensive. Okay? So, I'm going to open the polls. So I'm going to start with a warrant article. To the inhabitants of the town of Plymouth and the county of Grafton and the state of New Hampshire, qualified to vote in town affairs. You're hereby notified of the annual town meeting to be held as follows. The session that we had yesterday, and then the second session, which is tonight at 7 o'clock at the Plymouth Elementary School, and I would entertain a motion to take the articles one at a time. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Okay. I'm going to let Scott have a little conversation about the budget and everything before we start. So, Scott, I turn it over to you.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our annual meeting. It is wonderful to see so many familiar faces and new ones as well. Tonight, we have a full agenda, and I encourage everyone to participate respectfully and thoughtfully. This is our opportunity to work together to shape the future of Plymouth, to listen to each other, and to make decisions that best serve our community. Let's make it a productive and positive meeting. Bob, if you could come here for a minute. In recognition of Bob, this is from Amy Lee, who put this statement together. Words cannot begin to express our appreciation for Robert Bob Clay. Bob has been the moderator for longer than Amy, the current town clerk, has been alive, which is 4 decades. We as the town appreciate everything you have done for so many years and hope that you enjoy your time in retirement. Although we are sure you will still find a way to be involved. As a thank you for the years of your hard work, the town will be planting a plant that will bloom year after year in front of Town Hall with a plaque in recognition of Bob. Thank you from all of us at the town for your years as moderator, and can we please have a round of applause for Bob? Thank you. At the end of 2024, we bid farewell to Fire Chief Thomas Morrison. With 37 years of service, and Highway Superintendent Joe Fagnan with 34 years of service to the town of Plymouth. Both Tom and Joe have been tremendous assets to the town and have been instrumental in moving their respective departments forward, keeping up with current standards and requirements. We welcome Chief Kevin Pierce, who was promoted from Deputy Chief to Fire Chief on January 1st, 2025. And Steve St. Pierre, who has been promoted from Foreman to Highway Superintendent, effective January 1st, 2025. We also welcome our new Deputy Fire Chief, Dan Doucette, who is seated in the back of the room, and we welcome him to the town of Plymouth. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce the Select Board. Chairperson, Zach Tyrell. Bill Bolton. Ted Wisniewski, who is unfortunately out sick tonight and not in attendance. Marianne Barnsley. And Neil McIver. And Budget Committee members Mike Currier, Mark Halloran, Sue Woods, Matt Yetton, and Brent Buffington, and Ann Hebert, our Finance Director. I would ask department heads to introduce themselves, starting at the far end.
Hello, I am Jonathan Picard. I am the production manager of Pemmy Baker TV.
My name is Colin McIver, and I am the airport manager.
My name is Amy Lee, and I'm the town clerk. I'm Alex Hutchins. I'm the police chief.
Robert Cormier, Head of Parks.
Joseph Perez, town planner.
Steve St. Pierre, Plymouth Highway.
Kevin Pierce, Fire Chief and Health Officer.
Jesse Jennings, Facility Services.
Lisa Ash, Plymouth Recreation.
Becky White, Library Director.
Thank you. We have various boards full of volunteers who steadily work on a variety of projects. The Planning Board, Zoning Board of Adjustment, Energy Commission, Conservation Commission, Cemetery Trustees, Recreation Commission, Peace Public Library Trustees, Trustees of the Trust Funds, and the Beautification Committee, who diligently strive to serve the community and complete successful projects. The development of the town's recommended budget is one of the most important, challenging, and exciting responsibilities of the town manager. We, the department heads, finance director, budget committee, and select board started working on the 25-26 budget back in July of 2024. The process leading up to its creation invites honest conversations about the critical functions we perform, areas of desired improvement or expansion, opportunities to achieve equity, and the role of local government. We held approximately 13 public meetings to obtain input, thoughts, and ideas to include the formal public budget hearings on January 27, 2025, and the second hearing on the warrant articles on February 6, 2025. The annual budget is our largest and most significant policy document. The proposed budget demonstrates organizational commitment to top community priorities and shared values. The spending plan reflects strong collaboration, thoughtful consideration, and some tough choices, with a goal of best supporting our community in the year ahead. Most of all, it centers the needs of the many people who make Plymouth so special. Last year at town meeting, we were given a number of items that we would work on over the course of the year. First, review all tax-exempt properties. That continues today with the review of all of our nonprofit tax-exempt properties to assure that they meet the status of 501c3 exemption requirements. Select Board member Bill Bolton worked diligently on legislation with regards to nonprofits. Unfortunately, it was defeated in the legislature. I continue to work on pilot agreements, meeting with nonprofit organizations. Capital Improvement Plan. Second year of the plan, which creates sustainability on capital purchases to include infrastructure, equipment, land, roads and streets, and buildings. We continue to update policies and procedures to include records retention and destruction, investment policies for the treasurer and the trustees of the trust funds, procurement policies, purchasing, contracts, credit cards, fund balance, delinquent tax and recycle center payment policies, and the personnel policy. Grant research and acceptance of funds during the fiscal year of 24-25, the town of Plymouth secured $534,742 in grants for 10 projects. The grant funds supplemented cost in lieu of budget appropriations and expenditures. The town implemented a fund balance policy in August of 2023. The fund balance of the town began 2024 with a fund balance of $331,000. The actual year-ended audited fund balance at the end of 2024 is now $1,849,526. It will be available for the offset of future tax rate increases and the use in the event of an emergency. This amount is equivalent to 7.29% of the overall recommended fund balance as recommended by the New Hampshire Department of Revenue Administration. The range that is being targeted by New Hampshire Department of Revenue Administration is between 5 and 17% of all tax efforts to include not only the town, but the schools, state education, and Grafton County taxes, which totals $22 million. Summary of the numbers at a glance. All mentions of tax impact to the tax rate are estimated on the current evaluation and do not reflect any changes in revenue. I firmly believe that we need to have a balanced budget that Plymouth taxpayers can support. This means meeting expectations and creating sustainability for the town. If approved, the 2025-26 budget is $13,565,245, which is an approximate increase of 6% from the 24-25 budget of $12,780,224. This resulting in a potential tax rate increase of 8 cents per thousand in evaluation. Revenues, keeping in mind, are estimated. It will be my recommendation tonight, it will be my recommendation next fall for the Select Board to offset this increase with unassigned fund balance at the time we set the tax rate in the fall of 2025. The current tax rate on the town portion is $10.93, and that will be our goal, is to keep that level at the next tax rate setting for the future year. General increases in this budget include a 4% wage increase for employees and dental benefits. Inflation impacting heating, fuel, electricity, and pay alignment from wage and salary study. Very small increase in health insurance of 2.1%. By adding cost-effective plans, we will continue to look at cost-effective plans and look for future savings in the future. Increase in property casualty and workers' compensation insurances, and one new proposed firefighter, which we've provided worksheets that were located online. They were located at the town hall in the lobby and have been available through voting day yesterday and available tonight for review. Key priorities. This budget supports the many core services of our community relies upon, such as public safety, planning and development, town elections, public works, recycling, facilities, parks and other outdoor spaces to enjoy, recreation programs, library, and more, while recognizing the challenges remain to maintain service levels in meeting our community's expectations. At the same time, Plymouth, like many communities across the country, face complex challenges that require bold, innovative solutions. The 2025-26 budget, recommended budget, prioritizes the town's limited resources with the following goals in mind. Provide a safe, dynamic, and attractive community for people of all ages, and continue to address the changing demographic composition of the town. Continue to work with advisory boards and other groups as a means to encourage citizen participation in town government. Continue to be good stewards of the natural environment through planned stormwater and floodplain management efforts. Continue to cooperate regionally and with other municipalities and schools. Where appropriate, share ideas and resources. Maintain a commitment to and support an adequate, well-trained staff to serve the current and future needs of the community. Continue to employ sound fiscal management practices to ensure the long-term financial viability of the town. And continue to conduct business of the town with complete honesty, openness, transparency, and integrity. Key infrastructure investments. A priority during 2024 was creating a roadway, street, and sidewalk construction plan and list to preserve, maintain, and rehabilitate streets, roads, and sidewalks. You will see additional work being completed in the summer of 2025, which is included in this budget. Public safety complex. The Select Board authorized a needs assessment committee late in 2023 to evaluate the current police and fire buildings, to include the needs of those departments and the needs of the community moving forward. During 2024, the committee worked with the H.L. Turner Group to review the needs of both police and fire departments based on the current stations and looking into the future. The Turner Group provided a feasibility study of a potential site and a conceptual drawing based on the study. The committee is actively looking for additional plausible sites in the town that could house the future public safety complex. We continue to work through the process and have created a line in the capital improvement plan to address this need. Our hopes is to have a presentation ready for the March 2026 town meeting with meetings leading up to that meeting. Investing in town staff. The retention of our dedicated municipal staff is absolutely paramount to the continued success and well-being of our community. Their expertise, their experience, and commitment are invaluable assets that we cannot easily replace. Our staff possesses institutional knowledge that is critical for the smooth operation of our town. They understand our unique challenges, our history, and the specific needs of our residents. This knowledge is not easily transferable and is essential for effective decision-making and problem-solving. Consistent staffing fosters strong relationships within our community. Residents rely on a familiar face and trusted individuals to address their concerns and provide essential services. High turnover disrupts these relationships and can lead to frustration and decreased trust in local government. The cost of replacing staff is significant. Recruitment, hiring, and training are time-consuming and expensive processes. Investing in our current staff through competitive compensation, professional development opportunities, and a positive work environment is far more efficient and a cost-effective approach. The recommended 2025-26 budget meets this commitment through continued investment in competitive pay, benefits, full restoration of staffing, especially in the areas of high community demand, townwide activities to promote staff retention and competitive recruitment, and annual investments in improving employee professional development. As of today, we only have 2 openings in the town of Plymouth, and they both are within Plymouth Fire Rescue due to one individual retiring and another individual moving on to a larger department, which is the case in these days. But 2 openings out of 62 employees, I think we're doing fairly well. Changes in design and process. Both the 2025-26 recommended budget and the 24 through 29 capital improvement program were developed with input from department heads, select board, budget committee, our planner, planning department, and administration. While significant steps were taken this year to improve the process to accurately measure our intended outcomes and understand the true community impact of all of our investments over the next 2 to 3 budget cycles to include deferred payments on delayed delivery of equipment. The other area of improvement involves how we made decisions. This year's recommended budget is one that reflects our commitment to continuous improvement. We asked departments to describe their desired strategic goals and outcomes and to continue establishing meaningful measurements that will help us determine whether projects and programs are achieving desired results. We are happy to report that the Plymouth Solar Array on Quincy Road that was approved at the March 2023 town meeting was commissioned and operational on December 4th, 2024. We encourage residents to review the reporting metrics on the Town of Plymouth website under the Solar Array tab. In conclusion, recommendations about how we allocate funding must always demonstrate fiscal stewardship. But the best recommendations also reflect shared values, advance community priorities, address critical and emerging needs, build resilience, and improve the quality of life for all. I am confident that the 2025-2026 recommended budget achieves these goals. We continue to work with Plymouth State University, our community partner, through the Life Safety Services Agreement. We continue to work with Plymouth Schools, SAU 48, and the building leaders of Plymouth Elementary School and Plymouth Regional High School, Mountain Village Charter School, Mount Prospect Academy, and Explore Plymouth, nonprofit organizations to seek active pilot agreements. Bill and Neil, would you please come up? Bill, Neil? I want to express my sincere gratitude for your dedicated service to the town of Plymouth. As a member of the Select Board, I have appreciated your guidance and confidence over the past 27 months that I have served as town manager. Your commitment to our community has been truly invaluable. and your contributions have made significant positive impact on our town. Your hard work and dedication have helped us shape the future of Plymouth, and your efforts are deeply appreciated by our residents. I wish you both the very best in your future endeavors. Again, I thank you for your involvement in attending tonight's meeting.
So I just want to say, this is after 12 years of serving on the board, and I'm not claiming anything, but in the past 12 years, we've really gone quite a distance. I think we're at a point where it's just in great hands, and the one thing that's kind of like being overlooked is the fact that that piece of legislation that I put in this past year, even though it failed in the House, it was a good piece of legislation. I'm going to tweak it a little bit more for next year, and I'll thank you, and we'll try to push it through. Thanks.
Hi. After having a wild and exciting life in faraway places, I came to appreciate Plymouth, which has always been my home. And when I came back, I swore that I was going to atone for all my sins and serve my community the best I could. Thank you.
How come they have loud mics and I don't? Am I not close enough or what? It's like the ice cream cone. I have to almost lick it every time I speak, I guess. All right. I would like to start with Article 8. And Article 8 is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $9,989,416 for the fiscal years 25-26 general governance and department expenses as follows. Salaries. They usually give me a big one with big type, so I have to hold it up now so I can see it. Salaries, fees, and expenses, Selectman's Office, $289,376. Pemmy Baker TV, $85,780. Election registration, vital statistics, Town Clerk Office, $178,998. Financial administration, $328,809. Reappraisal of property, $98,100. Legal and prosecutor services for the Plymouth Police Department, $193,448. Personnel administration, health, dental, FSA fees, $1,202,299. Planning and zoning, $153,478. Land use enforcement, $93,563. General governance building, $179,302. Cemeteries, $73,572. Miscellaneous insurance, workers' comp, liability, and unemployment, $266,511. Advertising and regional associations, $7,283. Plymouth Police Department, $1,628,252. Police dispatch, $523,650. Ambulance, $1,393,404. Fire Department, $492,813. Emergency Management, $2,750. Street lighting, $60,500. Recycling Department, waste and solid waste, $508,451. Pemmy Baker Solid Waste District due, $4,500. Health Office, $9,500. New Hampshire Humane Society, $7,725. Welfare Officer, $20,879. Welfare Vendor payments, $60,000. Recreation Programs, $395,507. Parks and Grounds, $266,154. Library, $471,402. Patriotic Purposes, $4,950. Other Cultural and Recreation, $14,500. Conservation Commission, $5,350. Care of Trees, $10,000. Infrastructure bond payments, number 10, approval of 2016 of $208,000. Infrastructure bond payment number 5, approved in 2020, $276,250. Library expansion project bond payments number 15, $136,971. 2023 Main Street construction bond payment number 2, $256,950. And 2023 solar array bond payment number 2, $80,421. The Select Board recommends this article, and the estimated tax impact for this warrant article is $7.21 per thousand of property tax, and this, as well as every other article on the warrant, is being supported by the Budget Committee. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Okay, I am to inform you that this will be a secret ballot vote. We'll get to that and how we're going to do it when we get to the actual voting on the article. Is there any discussion? Yeah, please state your name when you're, yeah.
Good evening, I'm Sarah Terrell. I just have a quick question about this article and all of the other articles that we're voting on this evening. If we say yes to everything, can you tell me the percentage increase we would see?
It's a six, oh, go ahead, John.
So the total allocation is a 6% increase, but the tax rate estimate is 0.8%.
So if we say yes to everything, we're saying yes to a 0.8% increase.
That would be the estimate, but as Scott indicated, the Select Board may choose to apply some of the unreserved fund to make that even less.
So then we might see a 0% increase if we make that decision.
That is conceivably true.
If we say yes, spend all the money.
If every warrant article
I just want to make sure everybody in the room understands. We could say yes to everything and still not increase our taxes. Thank you. Thank you.
The town portion, yes.
The town portion, Yes.
Bob,
Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
could you confirm that the petitioner for this secret ballot?
Oh, yeah, okay. The question is, are the petitioners of this secret ballot here? There are 5 petitioners that are here. They've all signed it, presented it to me in advance, and they are all here. So it is a valid request for a secret ballot, as provided by the law. Let me just say one more thing, and then we'll get on with the discussion. I usually say that this at the beginning is that I run my meetings by Robert's Rules of Order. I'm Robert, these are my rules. All the rules are on page 135 and 136. Basically, it says that I am only a facilitator. I'm here to have the meeting run smoothly. I only make a decision if I'm breaking a tie or making a tie. Okay? So go ahead and read how it is. I've done it many, many times, but I try to be fair and honest and open to everybody and give everybody a chance to speak. Now, I'm sorry to interrupt you, sir, but go ahead.
Jeremiah Lamson, and I had a question about the reappraisal of property. Is that just the assessing services, or does that mean that there's an actual reappraisal of property this year?
It is a reappraisal of properties. The reappraisal of properties.
So we're doing it only 2 years in instead of 5?
Correct. You'll see less of an impact on the overall assessment based on a 5-year versus a 2-year.
I would hope so, because ours doubled the value we paid for the house 2 years before the reappraisal. So
And I can tell you
hope not
that
to have it double again.
I can tell you that we monitor the transaction of properties through Grafton County Registry of Deeds. And even today, properties in Plymouth are selling for 22 to 25% above their assessed value.
Any other discussion? Go ahead, John.
Just figuring out how to arrive at the tax rate, I added up all these pennies and so forth, and it comes out to $11.01. Does that sound right? That is the municipal portion of the tax rate.
Unfortunately, it's a little bit more complicated than that because of the revenues, right? So we allocate, we gross appropriate, and so we allocate how much money we will spend as a community, and then we have potential revenues, and those could be things like ambulance contracts or pilot agreements with nonprofits, all of these sorts of things, right? And so the revenues offset the appropriations. But if everything was to go through, it would be, I think your number is correct. I think
$11.01.
I think it's $11.01 because it's $10.93 plus 8 cents.
Okay. Well, I just want to say, last year it was $10.93. That's only an 8-cent increase, and I really appreciate it, especially after the extraordinary increase of 2 years ago when it was about 20%. And may I ask a couple?
Go ahead and follow up.
I'd like to ask the police dispatch, how much of that is paid for by other towns?
So 9 other communities pay into our dispatch center, and maybe our finance director has the numbers. She's the one that sends the bills out. But there are 9 other agencies that pay into our dispatch center.
And how about the ambulance service?
John, it's an answer here for you, John.
It's approximately $360,000.
Out of the 523,000?
Correct.
Okay.
The other thing, John, that you might find important
Bring the
this
microphone
year,
closer to your mouth.
another thing that you might find important this year is that we are invoicing an additional $25,000 over those towns for capital investments moving forward, such as technology, computer desks, anything to upgrade the dispatch center will fall back on, a portion of that will fall back on the towns that we are providing service to.
Okay. Well, I'd like to ask the ambulance, how much of that is covered by revenues?
So Plymouth Fire Rescue provides ambulance service for 5 communities, actually, as of this month, 6 communities. All provided with, we bring in a total of just shy of $800,000 in ambulance contract revenues. So for a $1.5 or $3 million EMS budget, $800,000 of that is covered by other communities.
Did we not add a firefighter 2 years ago?
Mayor?
Go ahead, finish.
Correct. So is this too loud? So the last 3 years, we've added 1 additional firefighter per year. This would be the 4th and last year. The goal was to bring every shift up to 3. The reason for that is that Plymouth Fire Rescue has had a major increase in call volume. Over the last 5 years, we've seen a 23% increase in call volume on top of an additional 800 fire prevention inspections that we're doing on top of that call volume. So this year alone, we've done 1,824 emergency responses. So that's the reason we need additional staff. And this will be the last year of the 1 per shift, where that's what we're asking for, is to bring us up to meet the need.
Thank you.
John,
last question. How many people do we have in the finance department?
A total of 4, 1 being part-time.
Okay. Well, I was
2
a
being
selectman,
part-time, I'm sorry.
quite a few years ago, and there was 1 full-time and 1 part-time person. And now we have 3 or 4 people.
We have a finance director, we have an assistant finance director, and then we have 2 part-time employees. What's that? and treasurer and tax collector within that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any more discussion?
Hi, my name's Anna Hattendorf. I have a question specifically about the welfare and officer and welfare vending payments. In light of everything happening with school free and reduced lunch being cut yesterday from the United States, I did call Senator Prentice, and she advised me to contact our federal representative, who I wasn't able to contact. But I was wondering if what we as a community and as the select board would then do if those programs are then cut, and how that would impact the budget for the town of Plymouth.
Go ahead.
So free and reduced lunches in particular would impact the school?
Yeah, correct,
So
and
it
that's
wouldn't
already
be-
been voted on. But in regards to the welfare, I know those are federal programs, but if they're gone, how could we help then?
We don't currently get any revenue from the federal government on our welfare programs as it
Okay.
is, so it shouldn't affect our direct assistance, although we do recommend people use various services. So
Yeah.
there could be indirect effects, but it shouldn't affect the town's contribution.
Okay, so there's zero that the town contributes?
As we understand it, yes.
Okay.
Zero for free and reduced lunch, or were you asking zero for what?
For any kind of welfare to anybody?
The 60,000?
So there's the amount that's in the budget
Yeah.
as represented, but there shouldn't be any effect due to changes at the federal government in
Okay.
regards to the town.
Does the town have any kind of food bank or anything?
Several, but not managed by the town. Yeah.
Yeah. There are several that are different organizations that handle, but go ahead.
Hi, I'm Katie Hedberg, and I'm on the board of the Plymouth Area Community Closet, and there is food assistance available through that. And there's also one day a week at the Reconciliation Church on Mondays. There's a food bank, and surrounding towns also have one.
Yeah, because I know all funding for that was cut too.
They're not all, the Plymouth Area Community Closet does not get any federally funded. It's local donations, so it's neighbors helping neighbors, and we need to continue to do that.
Any other discussion? Are you ready for the question? I like blue.
Yes, you do.
So I want you to take from the back your blue ballot. My assistant moderator, your new moderator, Lad Rain, will be watching the box for us. I encourage you to rip your ballot in half and stick in the ballot that you wish to vote. And Lad, will you please demonstrate? The box is empty. See, I don't have to run over there anymore. I always had to run over there. I didn't do my steps in anymore. And is locked, and it will be opened at the end of the voting. This does not have to be open any longer than it takes people to vote. So let's go vote. Going, gone. I declare the poll closed. We'll move on to the next article while they count the results of that article, which brings us to Article 10, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $76,846 for the purpose of funding the fiscal year 25-26 Police Parking Department, and to further authorize the withdrawal of $40,000 from the Parking Special Revenue Fund to offset this appropriation. The balance of $36,846 will come from taxation, and this is recommended by the board. Do I have a motion? A second?
Second.
Discussion? Yes.
What article are we discussing, 9 or 10?
Article 9.
I think you said 10.
I said 10? Sorry. Article 9. Do you want me to reread it? Nope. Okay. Please don't. Isn't that what I heard? Are you ready for the question? Yes. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. It's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 10, Police School Resource Officer, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $106,382 for the purpose of funding the fiscal year 25-26 Police School Resource Officer. This appropriation was offset by $79,787 from the SAU 48 school system, and this is recommended. Do I have a motion? Second. Discussion. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 10 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, I so declare it. Article 11, Highway Department, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $1,287,272 for Highway Department and authorize the withdrawal of $30,000 from the Muni Transportation Enhancement Capital Reserve account created for that purpose, with the remaining balance to come from general taxation. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? Discussion. Are you ready for the question? Okay, Article 11. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 12. Municipal Airport, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $11,598 for the purpose of funding the Plymouth Municipal Airport, with said funds in the amount of $7,000 to come from the Plymouth Municipal Airport Special Reserve Fund, with the remaining balance to come from taxation. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? Discussion. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. They gave me a hard candy, and it's killing me here. So I declare Article 12 passes. Article 13, full-time fire EMS personnel, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $102,570 for the purpose of funding one additional fire EMS employee. This cost includes pay and benefits for one full-time position. If approved, the appropriation of this portion will become part of the annual operating budget in sequential years. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Second. Is there discussion? Are you ready for the question?
You have a hand.
Oh, where's the state hand? John.
This is just a comment, but it seems our fire and rescue has grown much faster than the town. I don't think the town has grown maybe at 2% or something. And I just wonder how much we can afford.
Any other discussion? Are you ready?
I mean, aren't our taxes high enough in this town? I lost my place. You people ran this stuff through. You don't even think about it. I just got here. I'm shocked. You throw these figures around like they're chicken feed. You know, I lost my place on 34 Fairgrounds Road because of all this crap. What does this person earn? $100,000? I made $9,000 in the cemetery mowing for a whole summer. This EMS personnel, $102,000? Is that how much they make? It takes me 5 years to make that.
Go ahead, Chief. $106,000 includes their benefit package. So health insurance, dental, state retirement, which is state mandated.
Don't you people think our taxes are high enough? I can't believe the figures here. You people ram this stuff through like it's nothing. You know, I want to move out of this town. We can't afford any of this stuff. You know, I don't know. I haven't had time to research this stuff, but I'm just shocked. These huge figures. And you people are just, yep. You people are insane.
This stuff has been posted. This information has been posted for months and has been accessible.
Is there any other discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 14, Police Union. To see if the town will vote, let me tell you the results of Article 8. Article 8, were 140 yes, 20 no, 1 I didn't. Can't tell you. I can't tell you. It's what? Invalid. Oh, 1 invalid. Somebody put in both. Oh, okay. I couldn't read the writing. So I declare Article 8 passes.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Can I make a motion to restrict reconsideration on Articles 8 through 13?
Okay, is there a second? Okay. A motion to restrict means that we can't go back and reconsider anything that's already been voted on. And this goes back to many years ago, and it was called the Midnight Harry Bill from Harry Spanos in Newport, New Hampshire, which is kind of interesting. It was a meeting where money was voted, and at the end of the night, a bunch of people left, and left about 25 people, and then they voted to reconsider and turn down what had already been passed. So that's why we do these, so that we don't have that happen again here. So, you speaking to what I'm talking about, to reconsider?
I just have a question.
Yeah.
So if we pass this, if I have a question on something that happened before, can I ask that now before we do it and it's closed?
You have a question on something that's already
yes,
passed?
Yes, the Article 9, it went so fast I couldn't get my thoughts together.
You can ask me a question. I'll allow that.
Okay, thank you. So Ashley Saba, I'm just wondering what the projected revenue is for the parking department. If we're going to hire somebody, what are we hoping to recoup?
I don't think that's hiring anybody. It's paying.
Oh, that's not hiring. What's it for then?
It's the
budget for parking.
It's the budget for the parking.
What does
Yes,
that
it
mean?
offsets parking expense, and if we needed a new parking vehicle, we'll pay for that. The current balance in that account as of June 2024 is $237,000.
Thank you.
Valid question. I like that. Thank you. Okay, Article 14. Yeah,
Brooke Wakefield. I just didn't hear the results of Article 8. Can you repeat them?
I will repeat them. It was yes, 140, no, 20, and 1 invalid because they voted for both. Because they couldn't make up their mind. Yes. Where? Oh, I know. No, I wasn't. Okay, and the article on the floor is to,
Another clarifying question about the parking meters. Is the revenue listed of what we generate from the parking meters, and what is that used for?
So, yes.
use the microphone.
Thank you.
That,
Use the microphone.
I'm sorry.
Use the microphone.
So currently, Mary Beth, there's $237,000 in that fund as of June 2024. That's used to offset parking expenses if we're buying parking barricades, to replace the meters, to repair the meters, as well as it would be used in the future to purchase an additional or a new parking vehicle.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the article on the floor is to limit reconsideration on Articles 8 through 13. All those in favor of limiting reconsideration will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 14. This is the Police Union Local 3380, 3-year contract to see if the town will vote to approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the town of Plymouth and the Plymouth Police Department, Local 3380 AFSCME Union, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing level. Fiscal year 25-26, estimated increase $87,156. Year 26-27, estimated increase $89,770. Fiscal year 87-88, estimated increase value $92,463. And further, to raise and appropriate $87,156 for the current fiscal year, such sum representing the additional cost attributed to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at the current shifting levels. This appropriation will be offset by $28,024 from the SAU 48 school system. Do I have a motion? Second. Discussion. John?
Every time I have this question, but the consumer price index, the amount we get in Social Security increases and so forth, always show percentages. How do we know, based on this, if that's a reasonable rate? Can't we just include the percentage with it?
We certainly can, and I will tell you the percentages in this contract that was negotiated between the Select Board and the police union met the consumer price index at the time it was being negotiated at 3.1% was the consumer price index. In 25-26, the percentage raise is 4%. 26-27 is 3%, and 27-28 is 3%. So a total of 10% over a 3-year period, which is competitive with our area and the size departments that we're competing against to recruit and retain staff.
Well, actually, that sounds pretty good. The consumer price index went up 2.88% this week.
Yep, this in the month of February is 2.8%, you're correct.
Yep. Go ahead.
Hello. Just a quick question. So the offset, is that the reason why this one has such a lower tax impact than the fire union, which even though the amount for the fire unions to be raised is not 3 times the tax impact?
That we can talk more when we get to that article, but that article included pay adjustments with the pay.
No, it's the question of the total amount for Article 16 isn't 3 times the amount of this article, but the tax impact was 3 times more. So I was just,
It's because the tax impact is for this year. So the only number you would be looking at in terms of
I
tax.
think you're misunderstanding.
No, give me 1 second. So for the police union, the tax impact is for the 87,000. So just the amount for this year.
I was asking if the offset from the school system is the reason why this is not why it has such a lower tax impact than Article 16.
It's both. So it's the offset and the fact that you would be comparing $87,000 minus $28,000 to a total of $168,000.
Yes.
The fire union is 1 year.
Yes, they're both 1 year. It's just the amount was 168, which is not 3 times the amount of the 87,000. But you're saying it's showing a 3 times the tax impact. So that was the question, was if it's because of the offsetting revenue.
Yeah, so you would look at 87,000 minus 28,000, which is 49,000 versus 168. So yes.
William Bond. I just had a question. So this collective bargaining, this is every 3 years. So this will be kind of set for the rates for the next 3 years, and then we won't be revisiting the collective bargaining until 3 years from now. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 14 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Is the vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Special town meeting authorization. We don't need that one because it passed. Number 16, Plymouth Fire Department professional firefighters, to see if the town will vote to approve the cost. Excuse me. Items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the town of Plymouth and the Plymouth Professional Firefighters Union, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at their current staffing levels. Fiscal year 25-26, estimated increase $168,548, and to further raise and appropriate $168,548 for the current fiscal year, such sums representing additional costs attributed to the increased salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid under the current staffing levels. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Is there discussion?
So is there a reason why it's only a one-year agreement?
The reason it's a one-year agreement.
Microphone.
Thank you. The reason it's a one-year agreement is, in the past, both the police and the fire have been under one union. This year, they separated, so we have the police union and we have the professional firefighters of Plymouth union. So we negotiated 1 year with them, and what we will do next year is negotiate a 2-year contract with them to be under the same schedule as we are with the police union.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 16 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I just so declare it. And we will skip Article 17 because we don't have to do that. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $295,000 for the purpose of repairs to Emerson Street. This sum to come from unassigned fund balance, no amount to be raised from taxation. Do I have a motion? Second. Discussion.
Katie Hedberg, and I live on Emerson Street, and I've been up here every year for about the last 20 years asking for this, and I am so thankful that you're doing it. Thank you.
So am I, because it's so miserable getting off Langdon Street. I go up Rogers Street now. Is there any other discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 19 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Did you declare that?
No, I haven't yet.
Oh, okay.
You scared me. Article 19 passes. I so declare it. Now go ahead.
I moved
18.
Okay, you done with 18?
Yeah.
Okay, I move that we restrict consideration on Articles 14 through 18.
There is a motion to restrict consideration on Articles 14 through 18. Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Now Article 19. Highland Street project. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $251,000 for the purpose of repairing and reconstructing Highland Street from Old Ward Bridge Road to Broadway. This sum is to come from the town's unassigned fund balance, no amount to be raised by taxes. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? Is there discussion? We like these that don't cost us, you know. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Let's vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 20, capital projects, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $352,507 for the purpose of funding the following capital projects for fiscal year 25-26. Painting, Pease Public Library, $15,795. Landfill monitoring, $7,000. Town Hall painting, $20,000. Town Hall brick refacing and resurfacing, $30,500. Town Hall HVAC system repairs, $169,212. Reevaluation of properties, $30,000. Airport water well replacement, $20,000. Pemmy Baker TV camera and equipment, $35,000. Crushed gravel, $25,000. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Guess maybe I should have sat closer. Can I ask why we are putting money into capital reserve fund for reevaluation of property if we are funding a revaluation this year?
It's for future reevaluation projects.
Can I make a motion to amend this article? Does it have to be in writing?
It has to be in writing.
Okay.
And get it to me, and we'll put it on the floor. In the meantime, we'll continue discussion. I have a pad here if you need one.
William Bond. I had a question. What purpose does the water well serve us at the airport?
So
That's airport.
I'll let Colin, do you want to respond to that, please?
Yes, the airport has a well. It's a dug well. It's currently it's located in a wetland area. It's about 8 feet deep. The water is very foul. We have funding through the American Rescue Act for the airport we received during the coronavirus time, and those funds were used. They're allocated for the Plymouth Airport, and we've been using them to offset our budget. And we have some remaining funds, and we've been allowed to replace our well using the remaining funds. So there is no impact to taxpayers through using those funds.
Will there be any ongoing maintenance? I'm just trying to figure out why we need a well at the airport.
Well, it's a municipal airport, so it's a public location. And currently, when people go to the airport, whether they're flying in or coming in to visit, the bathroom, when you use it, you can flush a toilet and it just smells like rancid. So that's a kind of embarrassing for the town to have a piece of property where we don't have acceptable water at a public building. So.
Right, so I guess the question would be if we feel like we should be running a public bathroom at an airport that, I don't know, do any of us use the airport in towns? I was just saying, do we need to fund a public bathroom at an airport? Do you have an airplane? Do you regularly fly an airplane? Do we need to rebuild and maintain a well for an airport that I'm guessing maybe a couple people here in the town use? I mean, we can go through and we can say yes to every single item in here, and that's how we're going to continue even when our budget goes down each year to pay more in taxes. Or we can be a little more critical and say, do we really need this? Because at the end of the day, the cost of living is going up, and the cost of providing all these services is going up. So we're going to keep on having less and less in our personal budgets if we keep on paying more in taxes. All of our living expenses go up unless we say, you know what, this is not essential. I mean, this is what we have to do in our budget. So that's the question I'm asking is, do we all think this is what, or do we want to cut some things? Do we want to say, do we need a public bathroom at an airport?
That question will be answered by the vote, first of all. And second of all, I don't know whether you understood, he said that was offset by revenue that they already have. This is costing you nothing. But we have to raise the money before we can spend it.
Right, but we also have to maintain it. Because now that we have a new well, now we're going to need to inspect it and fix it and deal with things like that, right?
Go ahead.
So I think the important part is the airport is very heavily used. It's heavily used with planes coming in to go to Longview Farms. It's used for recreational area as like yard-wide yard sale. It's going to be used this fall for a fall foliage festival, as well as Habitat for Humanity will be utilizing the airport in October for an event taking place. So it is very heavily utilized during the operational months.
So do we have any income that we can offset the maintenance expenses on maintaining it from those?
Colin,
I mean, again, it's just like...
I understand your point, but it is heavily utilized.
I would like to add that the airport is also a public safety piece of infrastructure that is utilized frequently by the National Guard with the Dartmouth Hitchcock helicopters coming in to medevac people. There's training with the Fish and Game. They hoist dogs and people. They practice for mountain rescues at the Plymouth Airport. It's given its location, it's an ideal staging location. And we've maintained the airport to a very, it's 1 penny of the entire budget. And it's not paved, there's no fuel. And I, as airport manager, have aimed to make it the very best airport that it is the most functional. It's another way in and out of town for people coming to our community. And it is essential from a public safety standpoint. Once you lose an airport, you can never get it back.
So I thank you for your effort that goes into it, and I appreciate that. I think my question to the rest of the residents still stands, is like, are we going to say yes to everything, or are we going to decide what needs to cut, or are we just going to grumble about the taxes going up every year?
Go ahead.
Mr. Moderator, my name is Brendan Hoke. I'm a resident of Smith Street. I've lived in Plymouth for 20 years. I am the former IT and instrumentation director of the meteorology program at Plymouth State University, and I've worked over the years with Mr. MacGyver on a variety of airport projects. And I can personally speak to the condition of the restroom at Plymouth Airport. Mr. MacGyver is putting it in terms that are proper in this forum. It is bad. And I am excited that this project is moving forward. As the town manager, as the airport manager have proclaimed, the airport is in use during other times of the year. One use that was not mentioned, I believe, the elementary school runs a project where they do a flyover, where the kids create the egg drop, and they come out of the plane, and the kids are all there. And I can't imagine having to tell an elementary school student, sorry, we don't have a functioning bathroom in the terminal. So I support this amendment. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm David Nash, and I do have to question or ask, what do we need $35,000 worth of camera equipment for?
Go ahead, yes.
So that $35,000 is a leftover item from when Andrew Fenn was manager here. It's when we replaced a TriCaster and among some other things. So could I spend $35,000? Maybe. It's not absolutely necessary for this year. It just happened to remain on the CIP.
Okay. And I would like to comment on the bathrooms. Porta potties are pretty usable in a lot of situations, and could save $20,000.
My wife will make me go an extra 20 miles to get away from a porta potty, I'll tell you.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
I'd like to make a comment about the bathroom at the airport. I live right nearby, and I oftentimes see helicopters and ski planes come in the winter, and sometimes I talk with the pilots, and they want to know where they can go to the bathroom. And when you've been up in the air for a while, you're thinking about it. And also, it's nice to be able to wash your hands.
All right, I have an amendment, a motion to amend Article 20 by $30,000 for the revaluation of property for the total, to make the total of $332,507. Do I have a second?
That's what it is.
Okay. Yes. So to take 30, yeah. Your numbers don't work. If I take 20 from 20 from 50. Okay, that's why I'm having trouble. Making it $322,502. $7. Do I have a second? I do have a second? Okay, second. Okay, any discussion on the amendment? Are you ready for the question on the amendment?
Hello, Jenny Tebow. A question about how this will affect further years. I'm a big supporter of the idea of CIP, saving money now so that in the future it doesn't cost us as much. So right now, the idea is that we're putting money aside so that in a couple of years, when we're doing it, and the impression I got, nod or shake your head, that we're doing it every 2 years now. Correct. So instead of it being 30,000 and 30,000, does this mean that next year it's just going to be 60? Okay, so I just want to point out that we're saying no to 30,000 this year if we go with this amendment, but we're still going to have to pay for it next year.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And I would just like to point out that we're already spending $98,000 on this in the budget. So this is $30,000 on top of the 98 that we're already spending.
Any other discussion?
Sorry, Kevin Lincoln, and I hate to take this any further, but does this not say raise and appropriate the sum for the purpose of funding the capital projects? This is not going into the capital reserves. So this is actually to fund the projects. You won't see it again next year. It's going to take care of it. Am I not correct?
Okay. Are you ready for the question on the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment as read would signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Nay. The amendment fails. Which brings us to the main article. Is there any further discussion on the main article? All those in favor of the main article will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Which brings us to Article 21. Fire engine lease, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $161,945 for the purpose of funding the payment number 3 of a 5-year lease payment for the fire engine as approved in 2022 town meeting. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? Discussion. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 22. To see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to enter into an 8-year lease agreement in the amount of $911,320 for the purpose of leasing a Pierce Manufacturing dry side tandem axle tanker, and to raise and appropriate a sum of $143,942 for the first year's payment for that purpose. This lease agreement contains an escape clause. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Discussion. Are you ready for the question? Okay.
William Bond. So I see that the lease agreement is for $911,000, and the first year sum is $143,000. If I multiply that times 8, I get about $1.15 million. So are we paying $250,000 in interest over these 8 years?
Yeah, it's 3% interest on that.
So is this front-loaded, or are we to expect $143,000 each year for the next 8 years?
Correct, $143,942 each year.
All right, so we will be paying $250,000 in interest over the next 8 years on this lease. And then my follow-up question would be, how much in maintenance did it cost us over the average over the past 3 years for the existing tanker we have if we were to keep it going instead of doing this?
Go ahead, Kevin.
All right. So that's a great question. The existing tanker, also known as Engine 4, is a 1997, so it's 28 years old. To date, this truck has cost us $30,558 over the last 5 years to keep it running. About 15 years ago, we did a complete refurbishment, which actually cost us a new motor, too. This truck is rusted. It's 28 years old. The other thing we struggle with is it's extremely outdated. And we only have two pumpers in town, that's it. We have that TAC engine, which the delegation just voted on, and then we have this one. This was a tanker engine that has 2,500 gallons, and it's required by ISO. Our ISO rates are high as it is because this truck is old. NFPA, which is the National Fire Protection Association, who mandates the fire service, also NFPA 1912 requires that this truck goes out of service after 25 years. We've already milked it along. We put a lot of good money in this truck to try to keep it running. it's 20 years old. Usually you get 20 years out of a truck before it dies. So I can tell you right now, it takes 3 years to get a truck ordered and delivered. So we order it today, it's not going to be here for 3 years. I'm not confident that truck will last another 3 years.
So will we be paying for the first 3 payments before the truck is delivered? If it doesn't arrive for 3 years?
Correct. If we don't order now, we won't see it for a while, and it's only going to probably, well, as of yesterday, what was it, 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum? So it's going up if we don't order it now.
Are there used trucks available?
Yeah, there's used trucks, but it's only going to put us in this predicament even sooner, again.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the question of, do we want to continue spending lots of money, or do we want to look for alternatives?
David Kent, I'm in favor of the truck. I just want to know, do you have the space to put this truck?
Excuse me, this is really loud. Yes, Judge. So we will be replacing engine 4. So engine 4 will be leaving, and this truck will take its spot.
Is there any other discussion?
Irene Grace Garvey. What happens to engine 4? Do we get a scrapping money back in, revenue, anything like that?
So traditionally, we traded our engines. This truck cannot be traded in because it's so old and it's got so many issues. So it's probably going to go to a scrap yard.
So
or it's going to put it up to open bid to the public.
So what happens with whatever money we get? Does that just go into general funds?
Correct.
Thank you.
Bill?
You mentioned something earlier. I just have a question. Sorry. Hi. Can you hear me? Yeah. All right. I had a question. You mentioned something about, are homeowners' insurance rates affected by the status of fire equipment in town?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm also aware that the insurance industry uses states' code adoption and code enforcement to set insurance rates too, and I didn't realize fire was part of that too. So yeah, if we don't do this, we're all going to pay more for homeowners insurance too.
Is there any further discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 22 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, nay. To vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 23, to see if the town will vote to raise, authorize the selectmen to enter a 5-year lease agreement in the amount of $450,000 for the purpose of leasing an ambulance, and to raise and appropriate a sum of $113,000 for the first year's payment for this purchase. This lease agreement will contain an escape clause. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Moved and seconded. Do I have discussion?
Jenny Tebow, I read Robert's Rules of Order, so I think I can do this.
Yeah.
I actually have a question about Article 20 that has not been restricted yet. Can I ask that?
We'll let you after I finish this article because you've already asked.
Okay, thank you.
Because it does not apply to this article.
Correct.
Yep.
I just wasn't sure.
No, I'll
Thank
give you a chance, yep.
Is this a replacement ambulance, or is this a new, an additional to the 2 that we have?
This is a replacement ambulance.
Is there any other discussion on Article 23? All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. I will entertain your question on Article 20.
Okay, so in Article 20 under capital projects, it specifically says I'm assuming it's reevaluation of property, $30,000. Is a revaluation of property the same as a reappraisal of property, which I am not questioning us voting for? Okay, just because those are 2 different words. In Article 20, you nodded when I said it's $30,000 for next year, for a future year, but this specifically says for 25, 26.
Capital Improvement Fund.
Because this specifically says the capital projects. It doesn't say the capital improvement fund, but I'm just questioning it because 8 is also 25, 26. expenses. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not using them. Oh, sorry. I just want to make sure
You are
that.
correct, Jenny. It's towards the $98,000 that is put aside for the project. $30,000 will come from this towards that.
Okay, so of that 98 that we voted for in 8, 30 is saying it's going towards that.
This is where the money is.
Okay, that's just where it's coming from. Okay,
Correct.
okay, thank you. I feel much clearer now. Thank you.
Yep. Is this a question on this, or?
Jenny, future years is in Article 32 for reevaluation.
All right. So now I'm confused because your answer just made it more confusing. So, because it says raising and appropriating 30,000 for so is that 30,000 on top of the 98?
No, it's 30,000 towards the 98.
It's 30,000 toward the 98.
Okay, but it says raise and appropriate this, and raise and appropriate in the budget was 98. So it looks more like you're raising it twice.
So it's
It
in
does-
addition to the 98,000, the 30,000 is in addition to the.
Okay.
Use the microphone, please.
So we have the general assessing budget, which you approved in Article 8, okay? And then you have your reevaluation of property, which you are approving in Article 20. And then you are putting money away for future years in Article 32. Assessing is a multi-year project.
I understand.
We-
I'm fully aware of how reappraisal process goes from,
Okay. We have a multi-year contract that we are funding, and that's the cost of the contracts at this time.
So I guess I'm with you. Is it going to cost us $98,000 plus the $30,000 is $128,000? I mean,
Yes,
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 but it's being raised in two different places for,
because part of it is capital over a multi-year, and one is just the general assessing, which is the current year.
okay, that's probably about as clear as mud.
all right, back to where we were.
That's this,
Yes.
that's this other one.
Years ago, we used to do an appraisal about every 5 or 10 years, and we had to float a bond issue to do it. Now we do it on a almost continuous basis. Is that right? What?
Every 2 years.
Okay. And it keeps our values close to what the actual market value is, right?
That is the goal of the project.
Okay. Article 29, recycling.
Bob, can I interrupt just a second, because I wanted to get some clarity.
Yeah.
These are two different items. So one is the full, yeah, this microphone's quiet. Yeah, it's like I have to really get it in there. So the first one is every time something changes in town, someone has to go out, look at somebody's house, someone files an abatement, right? All of these sorts of general maintenance of going out and looking at your houses and what's changed, okay? And so we have a contract with somebody who does that work, and they go out and they do that. That's one of them. And tax maps. So all of those kinds of services. The other one is the town-wide evaluation, which is setting the overall baseline for the town, looking at all the properties. So there's one that's reactive, and it's continual, and there's one that's a full survey. And the full survey is something we're doing every 2 years now, instead of every 5 years. The second one is that one, is the town-wide reevaluation. And the first one is the ongoing continual work that needs to occur in town to maintain valuations of properties.
Okay. Article 29, recycling center, to see if the town will vote to, 20,
Can I go?
Hey.
Hey, Mr. Moderator.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit.
I didn't want a dump truck.
I'm a little bit late, but I'd like to restrict consideration from Articles 19 through 23.
Is there a second? All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, nay. I vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Now I'll go to Article 24. I flipped the page. I didn't know where I was on the page, but it's on the wrong page. Article 24, highway dump truck lease, to see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to enter a 5-year lease agreement in the amount of $251,793 for the purpose of leasing and outfitting a Kenworth T480 dump truck, and to raise and appropriate a sum of $58,636 for the first year's payment for that purpose. This lease agreement contains an escape clause. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? Discussion. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 24 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, nay. It's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 25, Fire Department vehicle, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $79,568 for the purpose of purchasing and outfitting a four-wheeler drive SUV command vehicle for the Plymouth Fire Department. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Yep. I got one coming first, then you, John. Oh. Sorry.
Is
Gotta
this
walk
the-
faster.
Is this the chief's vehicle?
This is the deputy fire chief's vehicle.
And what does the chief have?
I have a Tahoe, and the deputy chief is assigned the Tahoe. So because we're multi-function agency, right, we're in all hazard mitigation, we're constantly doing inspections, we're constantly everywhere. So us to share a vehicle is impractical. We're both in two different places at all times. So both vehicles are outfitted to handle any significant incident, personnel accountability. They have systems in it, radio systems for communication. So any emergency in the town, police or fire, our vehicles are assigned to it, and the police chief, the fire chief, the town manager, anyone can get in there and communicate with all agencies across the town and state. That's what they're designed for.
Okay. Except for the ambulances and fire engines, are these the only two vehicles you have?
No, we have one other, the building inspector who's in our office now. He has a car, and what would happen is traditionally our emergency response vehicles, the chiefs and the deputies, whenever they're replaced every 10 years because of mechanical issues, we pass them down to the administrative roles where they're not emergency response, so it's less likely to have problematic issues, and they can kind of milk it for a little while, just, driving slow, and of course, our streets. We're also out in all weather, and we're out in all environments, so we have to have reliable vehicles.
Okay, I guess if we wonder why our town budget keeps going up, again, back when I was selectman, there was one vehicle for the police chief, and that's all there was.
John, just a little bit of clarification is we will get rid of one vehicle when this vehicle is purchased. And I think something that has to be noted is that with Chief Pierce, he's a paramedic, and his vehicle at times is used as a paramedic intercept. If we've got the ambulance coming in without a paramedic on board and they need that level of care, Chief Pierce will respond with that vehicle as a paramedic intercept to provide a higher level of care.
It's easy to count the the fire department's vehicles because they're always parked out front. I can't keep up with the police. But you have three vehicles right now: the pickup truck, the small SUV, and the large SUV.
We have the F-250 pickup truck, which has a plow during the winter on it. And then we have the chief's vehicle, the deputy chief's vehicle, and then we have a building inspector, which that car is used for that and also goes away for trainings, et cetera.
That's the maroon one?
That's the small Ford Explorer one with a light bar on it.
Yeah, maybe that's it. But you answered my question. You're getting rid of one of them when this one comes on board. Good.
Correct. The small maroon one with the light bar will be going away.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 25 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 26, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $70,000 for the purpose of purchasing and outfitting a new police cruiser. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 26 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Okay. Do it again. All those in favor of, no, don't just hot hollering. Let's all keep it at the same pitch, but this question, I'm pretty sure it was an aye, but I want to hear it. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The ayes have it. Article 26 passes. Article 27, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $25,152 for the purpose of purchasing and installing a new repeater on Hemp Hill in Bristol for the Plymouth Police Department. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Any question, any discussion? Are you ready for,
I'm back in the nosebleeds over there, so it takes a little while to get down here. There we go. So I had a question here. It looks like this is in Bristol. Is this to help our dispatch in servicing all the other communities that we service?
That is correct. So we service 9 other communities to include Bridgewater, Hebron, and Groton. So this will assist us in enhancing our communication dead spots in those towns that pay into our communication center.
Are they paying more to cover this?
We have started to bill out to the towns that pay into our dispatch center for things like this. But right now, it's really a safety concern because there are so many dead spots in the radio communications area.
But the intention is to, since I just looked at the dispatch and it was like, we pay about 30% of the dispatch for 9 towns. We're only one of the towns. So I just want to make sure that we're not sort of subsidizing other towns and they aren't paying their fair share of whatever infrastructure we need to do this.
They are paying for their fair
Okay.
share. Plymouth uses our dispatch center a lot. We're really busy.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
is there any other discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 27 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 28, police taser equipment lease, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $11,237 for the purpose of funding payment number 2 of a 5-year lease purchase agreement for 16 tasers as approved by the 2024 town meeting. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Discussion. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Recycling center, glass removal, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $25,000 for the purpose of removing glass stockpile to the Plymouth Recycling Center. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Is there discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 30. I was trying to say, I do have an amendment for 32 that I will read at the time. I'm just making sure it didn't have to do with this one. Building needs assessment, fire and police, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $25,000 for the purpose of funding the building needs assessment for the Plymouth Fire and Police Departments. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? Is there discussion? Kevin?
So, Kevin Lincoln again. I'd like to offer an amendment to add an additional $25,000. The current fire station we have is over 50 years old. It needs to be replaced and retired. I know the police department has been in their building. since approximately 1990. So do that math, that's 30 years. Those services have changed drastically in those years. It's really time that we start to look at this, give the committee the ability to look into it. Don't hold their hands. Let them look at it. If they don't need the 25,000, I totally think that they're not going to spend it. Just because they have it, they're not going to spend it. But let's get this out there. We've been here multiple times to try to put a public safety complex, and it's been voted down and hasn't gone. The time wasn't right. The time wasn't right. I'd hate to know what it is today, but we need to get moving, and I'd like to offer that to go to 50,000.
Do I have a second? Thank you. Okay, so that puts the amended article on the floor to add $25,000 to make the amount raised for the, this is for the study, the building study? Yes? For the building study of the fire safety, possible fire safety building. Okay, everybody understand what that is? Okay, discussion on the amendment.
Okay. I guess the first question then is, how did the 25,000 number come about? Since somebody's looking to double it.
How did the 25,000 come about?
25,000 is an estimate on what it's going to cost us to move forward with the Midland feasibility study, and that means putting together a conceptual drawing and getting something in place that we'll be able to bring to town meeting next year. And it's a quote from the Turner Group, which is an engineering firm that we're working with.
I know Salem does a lot of work with them, so, or has done work with them, so.
My question is, will the 25,000 you have appropriated here be enough to cover the assessment?
I mean, we would hope so, but can I say definitely? Absolutely not.
So, I mean, another 25,000 may be an overkill for the amount of money you need to do the study.
The 25,000, the additional 25,000 may give us a little bit more leeway of looking at an additional plausible site. Because, as you know, in Plymouth, there's no property available to build a public safety complex. So we're working very hard, very diligently with a property owner now to secure either a long-term lease for property or purchasing a property. This would give us some additional funds to move towards that purpose.
So, but then so this wouldn't go toward the property, though it would still be part of the assessment?
It would be part of the study on the land that we're looking at.
Okay.
William Bond, I just want to say that if we have a quote for $25,000 to do the study, I'd say let's go for that. If we're talking about spending another $25,000, I'd rather see us give it to the police and the firefighters of our town, rather than giving a consulting agency more money to do something they've already given us a quote on. So, just wanted to put that out there.
David Kent, this has got to be at least the fourth time that I've heard this particular motion brought before this board, and every time it fails because we can't agree on where the location is going to be. In town, out of town, the current location, or out somewhere else. So until we nail down a specific location where this can occur, where conceptual drawings can be drawn for that specific location, I don't think I would favor another study that replicates the things that we've done 4 times already. Thank you very much.
I can tell you that the drawings that are going to be comprised are for a site that we would be proposing in March of 2026.
Any other discussion on the amendment? So the amendment's on the floor to change it from $25,000 to $50,000. All those in favor of the amendment will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Nay. The amendment fails, which brings us to the main question. And the main question is to raise $25,000 for this project. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. It's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article
Mr. Moderator?
20, Article, let me finish. Article 30 passes. Go ahead.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to restrict consideration for Article 24 through Article 30.
Any discussion? Are you ready for the question? To limit, yes.
Chris Mumford. Since we are down to quibbling about $25,000 amounts here, I would like to hear a discussion about removing glass for $25,000. And depending on what I hear, I would like to maybe reconsider that vote. I don't know what the mechanism
Do
is
you
for
want
that.
to make a motion to reconsider that vote?
I would like to make a motion to reconsider that vote based on what we were told about removing $25,000 worth of glass.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of reconsidering Article number 29, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Nay. Fails. Now, the article that was on the floor was to limit consideration on Articles 24 through 30. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 31, Conservation Commission, Natural Resources Inventory, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $14,000 for the purpose of updating the town's natural resource inventory and mapping and to further authorize the withdrawal of $9,000 from the town's unreserved fund balance, and the balance of $5,000 to come from the special revenue fund of the Plymouth Conservation Commission. No funds to come from the current year taxation. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, Article 32. Yes. What am I, tired? Yeah. I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. Nays? I thought it was quite obvious. I'm sorry, but it does pass. Article 32, the capital reserve deposits, to see if the town will vote to raise, to add to the existing capital reserve funds under the provision of the RSA 35:1 for the following purpose, and to raise and appropriate the respective sum totaling $55,000 to place in said funds. Conservation Commission CR Fund, $5,000. Dispatch Equipment CR Fund, $25,000. Town Reevaluation CR Fund, Capital Reserve, that's what the CR is, Fund, $25,000. Do I have a motion? Second. Discussion.
So, Phil Lamoureux, I would like to speak to the importance of funding the capital reserves. The planning board and the CIP committee put a great deal of work into the CIP, and my recollection is that this year's expenditures were somewhat low, so there were several investments in capital reserves to level out our funding. Otherwise, our funding would be low this year, and it would be higher in years future. The whole point of a CIP is to levelize the tax rate. So I would argue that funding the CIP with these this year is important to avoid costs next year and into the future. It's part of the CIP. There's a lot of work that goes into it, and I would encourage us to approve this.
I believe I've given you a
Right.
motion.
You have to tell me what it is, that's
Yes,
all.
I'm making a motion to reduce this by $25,000 to remove the town revaluation CR fund. We're already spending now $128,000, and this would be adding 25 more for that same purpose.
Do I have a second? Okay, so he wants to remove 25,000 from it. Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of removing 25,000, making the new article equal 30,000, there's the number, 30,000 instead of the number that we had prior. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Nay. So the amendment fails, which brings us to the main article. Is there any discussion?
Joan Turley, Chair of the Conservation Commission. Since there's $5,000 in here for the Conservation Commission, I want to take the opportunity to explain the need for our natural resource inventory and the need to maintain it. We currently have to update and revise our natural resource inventory because it's 20 years old. And with this inventory, we're able to access grant money that, with an updated inventory, we can access grant money that we aren't able to access right now. So it's our desire to keep that inventory updated on a biannual level, so we're not in a position where we have to update a 20-year-old inventory. So that $5,000 is partially to enable us to not get in the position that we're in now to go to the town for a larger, for $14,000, $15,000. So thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 32 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 32, nonprofit and health agencies, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $49,470 for the purpose of funding the following nonprofit health agencies for the 25-26 fiscal year. Pemmy Baker Home Health Agency, $15,570. Genesis Lakes Region Mental Health Agency, $5,000. Transportation Central, $2,000. Grafton County Senior Center, $10,000. Tri-County Community Action, $5,400. Voices Against Violence, $2,000. Pemmy Youth Center, $4,000. Katie Communities for Alcohol and Drug-Free Youth, $5,000. CASA Court-appointed child advocates, $500. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Hi, Anna Hattendorf. I will need to borrow a piece of paper and a pen, but I motion to raise the amount on this. I know that seems unpopular to those in the room, but due to everything going on, these organizations will need more support and more help from everyone in our community, and I believe that if we can give them a little bit more support, whether it be an additional $5,000 to $10,000 from our budget, I propose an amendment that we do so.
You have to be specific in what you want to do.
I propose an amendment to raise it by, what? $10,000 to distribute evenly to the organizations in this category.
She said specifically where? She said split amongst the which ones?
Thank you.
The motion to amend is to add $10,000 for this article and to split it among the nonprofits. Was that supposed to be evenly?
$1,111 to
Yep.
each agency.
Per agency. Yeah. And that's $1,100 per agency. Is there any, do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any discussion?
And I think that right now, a lot of us realize that our town currently has over 50% of our taxable land that is owned by nonprofits. And I see that as a significant contribution that we all make to these various nonprofits. I think that a lot of work has gone into figuring out the allocation of funds for the current proposal. And so rather than just throwing out a number, I would encourage anybody who feels so inclined to just toss money towards these various organizations to make donations. We make many nonprofit donations ourselves to organizations that we feel are good. I mean, what we're doing here is we're saying that everybody who currently pays the property taxes in this town, which is not a huge number of people, are now going to be asked to pay more by just coming up with another number that changes it. So the question is this the approach we want to take to this, or do we want to be more methodical about it? Or do we want to make personal decisions about supporting these organizations? So that's my thoughts on it.
John Randlett, Plymouth resident. These organizations do a lot of good work. We talk about the nonprofit. The majority of it is the college, not these other businesses that help individuals that don't have it. And those people are out there. We see them all the time. I have a couple of nonprofits I'm involved in, and we're giving money away all the time. We're helping people. And, you know, they need to have the money there when the people need it. And we're not talking about that much money in comparison. So I think we need to consider that. If we were in the situation they're in, do we want to have the money? Do we want to have the things? We've had one organization, a woman with 4 children, and her husband committed suicide. Are we just supposed to, you know, try to go with what we have here, or when we have the money available? We need to support these people. You know, they're out there, and they're good people. Thank you.
David Kent, I believe everything that's just been said is true, but I also believe in the budgeting process where these groups had an opportunity to present their case. The budget committee determined what they were able to afford and set this as an appropriate number. I favor the article as it originally was entered.
Hi, Joan Turley again. I was one of the original founders of Voices Against Violence. Then it was Plymouth Area Task Force Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. And we did a study and determined that the money that we were allocated from the towns in this area was costing the town actually significantly less than if the services we provided were provided by the police department, the fire department. I mean, many times I was met with clients and accompanied them to court, got them to safe shelters. If it weren't for volunteers, they would have been, the police department would have taken it over. So in our study, we found that it actually saved towns money to support these organizations. So I would recommend that the more we can support them, supporting them is a fiscally sound thing to do.
Hi, Sarah Terrell. I don't know if you can do this quick math, but could you project for us the cost impact of an additional $10,000 in the budget?
Yes, it's 2 cents on the $10,000 that's being requested.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Martha Burtis. I want to say a couple things. First of all, I believe the spirit of this change to the article is about recognizing things that are happening in the world right now that may cause members of our community to suffer more in the next 12 months than maybe was anticipated during this budgeting process. And I want to say that I have a great deal of respect for this budgeting process. I cannot imagine the amount of work that goes into what you all have prepared for tonight. But I also recognize that sometimes we can't always anticipate what's going to happen in a given year. And I believe that my fellow Plymouth resident who recommended that is trying to maybe offset some of the harm that might be coming to some of our more vulnerable communities. Yes, we could address this in 12 more months, but how many people will suffer during that 12 months? My question for the folks at the front of the room is, what other funding opportunities, what other money is available within the town to help these communities that we may not be aware of beyond what we're approving today? So I know we've talked about various reserves that the town has. If we were to determine that there were a real need for some of the citizens of the town, are there other ways that this money could be allocated outside of the regular budgeting process that will bring us back here in another year?
I would suggest that if there was an individual need, they could meet with the welfare director and fill out an application to see if they qualify for assistance, whether it's housing, fuel, electricity, any of those items. But the welfare director would be happy to meet with them and take an application to see if they qualify for assistance.
In terms of support for these organizations, though, is there any other process during the year by which these organizations can request additional funds beyond what we're voting on tonight?
Not from the town perspective.
That's what I was wondering. Given that, for me to be able to support this change, I would make a request to amend the amendment, that the $10,000 be distributed proportionally, not equally, across these organizations. I think that is one way to acknowledge the budgeting process that has gone into determining these amounts. I think giving $1,100 to an organization that we were previously going to give $15,000 to, and another one that we were going to give $500 to, suggests that we're not considering the difference between these different organizations and the impact that money could have. I don't know whether or not amending an amendment requires a whole other process.
I'm a negotiator. Would the person who made the original amendment change it to proportional? Would the second allow it to be changed to proportional?
Yes.
Okay. So I would restate the amendment to add $10,000 to be split proportionally among the nonprofits listed in this article. Does that suit what you want? Okay. Any other discussion on the amendment?
I just wanted to address, thank you for, where did she go? Thank you very much. I also wanted to say that as a Plymouth resident, I also do own a business in Hebron who does do my best to support some of these organizations. So I am, as an individual, also supporting them. So I am trying also as a resident and a taxpayer, but also as a taxpayer in 2 other towns as well, because my business goes over Bridgewater and Hebron. So I'm trying in 3 towns as taxpayers and as an individual person to help support the businesses as well. So I'm trying on multiple levels. Mr. Where are you, Mr.? I forgot your last name. Hello. So just so you're aware.
Go ahead, John.
John Redlett. As a previous selectman, I know at one point, I've been up for 3 years now, but about 4 years ago, we were running about 90 to 100,000 in this. And so I think the select board has done a great job in assessing the needs in that, and I think the $10,000 should be put in there. Thank you.
I have somebody standing in line. I will allow that first, and then I will entertain that motion.
So my only follow-up comment here would just be that there's 160 people here today, and what you're asking for is to opt all of the taxpayers in Plymouth into these organizations and donating this extra money. My recommendation is if everybody here who wanted to vote for it, all 160, put $62 to these organizations, we would cover the 10,000, and then we wouldn't have to ask all the other taxpayers who aren't here to also fund them. So I would ask you, is $60 more from each of you who want to support these organizations? Is that something you want to do? If so, maybe write a check for $60. I'm sure these organizations would love to have it. I'm just not sure that, I think as members of this community, we should be making the decision for all the other taxpayers who might not be here. That's all.
Scott.
I think one thing that's important is I know this number has dropped over the years. And one thing that we requested this year from every nonprofit, and this is only a partial list of who we provided funds to, is we asked them for their bank statements. And many of them didn't reapply for assistance based on the number of funds that they had in their bank accounts. These appropriations that we put in here, we reviewed every one of the nonprofits' bank accounts and statements. And this number, which is far less than last year, was built off of that evaluation.
We've got the previous question has been moved. That means limiting debate, so I have to put that on the floor first. So there is a motion on the floor to limit debate, and is there a second? Okay, all those in favor of limiting debate on this article will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Which brings us to the amended article, excuse me. And the amended article will be to raise $59,470 to be distributed proportionately among these organizations here. Does everybody understand the question? So it's going from 49,000 to 59,000. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Nay. It's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Which brings us to Article 34. Canon Repair and Renovate Capital Reserve Fund. Oh, the amendment. I got to do the main article. The main article will now read the 55,000. I'm tired. $59,470. All of you ought to work at the polls one day from 6 o'clock in the morning until God knows what time we get out at night, and then come here the next night. All right, so the main article is now $59,470 for these agencies. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. It's a vote in the affirmative, and I still declare it. Now Article 34, Canon Repair and Renovate Capital Reserve Fund, to see if the town will vote to establish a Canon Capital Reserve Fund under the provisions of RSA 35:1 for repairs and maintenance of the town's cannon, and to raise an appropriate sum of $5,000 to be placed in this fund. Further, to name the select board as agents to expend this said fund. Do I have a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor of renovating the cannon will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Nay. It's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. And any other business to come before this meeting legally? I've got a question. Yep. Go ahead. You're first. Yep.
Jonathan Van Scooter. So I'm not quite sure how this will work if I'm able to do it, but I know we restricted amendments 8 and on. When I was voting and I got everything to look at, Yesterday we voted? I can't even remember. I'm tired like you. I was actually really surprised in Article 2 that our town was in favor of allowing sexually oriented businesses. I don't know about you guys, but I want Plymouth to remain a family-friendly environment. I don't think that has any need for in Plymouth or in around that. So can I just ask what a sexually oriented business is from the zoning board?
Joseph, would you take that question?
Yes, so of course, the zoning articles were approved yesterday, so those are not up for debate as I understand it. But the amendment as approved by the voters did not add sexually oriented businesses as a new use. It simply moved the zone in which they're permitted by special exception. Previously, they were permitted by special exception in the agricultural zone. As amended, the zoning ordinance now permits them only by special exception in the industrial commercial development zone. So that use has not added anew. It's simply moved from one zone permitted by special exception to another permitted by
No, I understand that. I would actually like to see us next year bring this up to not allow it in either district. I know we just restricted it to not being used, and if I'm not allowed to put an amendment to change that now, I would like to see that for the planning board to think about that. And if I don't see that, I would be more than happy to do a petition because I'm sure enough people want to see that.
If I may. Jeremiah Lamson, I will just say that when I worked for the town of Pittsfield, we had a petition, zoning amendment because we were told by our attorney at the time that if we did not have it allowed by special exception in some district, it would be allowed by special exception in any district.
So it's the legality of it all. So have them revisit it and understand it and make sure that we understand it.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Tom Newcomb, the code enforcement officer for the town, and I'm in charge of enforcing the zoning. And if we do not allow it by special exception somewhere in town, then we face litigation that it could be forced into us in any zone. So therefore, we have to have some means of allowing it as long as we control it and limit it.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other business that may legally come before this meeting? Go ahead.
Irene Garvey, quick update on solar. Moderator, if that's okay. The solar array on Quincy Road was commissioned in mid-December. So far, it's generated 50,000 kilowatt hours, which is actually above the number of hours generation that we had originally modeled, which is great news. One piece of unfortunate news is we applied for the 10% bonus credit through the Department of Energy. That was on a lottery basis, and we did not make the lottery, so we're not going to get that 10%. However, the town should receive its first check from the New Hampshire Electric Co-op sometime later in this spring, early summer. We won't know how much that is until we get the check, because we don't know how much it will generate in the meantime. We should also receive pretty soon now a $10,000 rebate from the Public Utilities Commission. And then in the fall, we'll receive our first renewable energy credit check, which will be probably over $10,000, as I understand it, from our last contract, because we sell our renewable energy credits, basically. We are currently a little bit on pins and needles. We're waiting for our registration number so that we can, through the IRS, so we can file a tax return from which we would get our 30% direct pay, which is over $200,000. It's unknown right now whether that 30% will be part of the distributions that are currently being held back by the executive orders that have come out of this administration. Personally, as a taxpayer, I've been getting in touch with my representatives to make sure that they understand how important this money is to this town. It was promised to us through a law. It is a direct pay. We've put some of these flyers up on the front table. If you also feel like this money is important to you as a taxpayer, over actually it's $210,000, I encourage you to take a slip of this and go ahead and please contact your representatives, also your selectmen and congressmen. Thank you.
David?
Yes, thank you very much. I think the members of this community should recognize that these are crazy times that we are living in, and that what we have just seen is the exercise of real democracy. Give yourself a hand.
Mr. Moderator, I want to move that we reconsider or restrict consideration on articles.
No, I'm closing the meeting. Don't worry about it. So, one more thing. It's been a wonderful run and a lot of support from a lot of people in the town of Plymouth for many years, and I'd like to thank you all. And now we stand adjourned.